In example 3, we need to construct a confidence interval. Before we can find the confidence interval, we need to find the margin of error. And the first step in finding the margin of error is to find the critical value T alpha over 2. So let's draw a picture. In this case, we have a confidence level of 90%. So there's 90% of the data in the center. That leaves 10% left over, so 5% in each tail. Here's where T alpha over 2 is. Now, in order to use table A3, we also need to know the degrees of freedom. Since the sample size is 106, the degrees of freedom is 105. So now go to table A3 to find the critical value. Use the degrees of freedom is equal to 105 and the area in two tails of 10% or 0.10. Now we've just run into a problem because 105 is not in the table. However, it is a lot closer to 100 than it is to 200. If the degrees of freedom you are looking for happens to be exactly between two numbers in the table, use the smaller number. For example, if the degrees of freedom had been 65, that's exactly in the middle between 60 and 70. In this case, you would have used 60. Let's go back to example 3. So we will be using 100 for the degrees of freedom and 10% or 0.10 as the area in two tails. You should find a critical value of 2.626. And now we can find the margin of error. The error is equal to 2.626 times the standard deviation 0.62 divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 106. The sample mean has 2 decimal places, so we want the margin of error to have 3 decimal places. So rounding e to 3 decimal places, you should get 0.158. Now we can find the confidence interval. The sample mean is 98.20 minus the margin of error 0.158 is less than the population mean is less than 98.20 plus 0.158. So we want to do the adding and subtracting and round to 2 decimal places, just like the sample mean. So on the left side you should get 98.04, and we do have a label, would be degrees Fahrenheit, is less than the population mean, is less than, on the right side you should end up with 98.36 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want to use your calculator to find the confidence interval, you should enter stat, test, and T interval. Enter the information they ask for, and you should end up with the same thing. 98.04 degrees Fahrenheit is less than the population mean, is less than 98.36 degrees Fahrenheit. 2 more questions. The first one, does the confidence interval limits contain 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit? And you should answer no to that question. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit will be larger than our upper limit. The second question, what does the sample suggest about the use of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit as the mean body temperature? Well, since 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit is not within the interval, it suggests that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit may not be the true mean.